I'm Michael Ching. I lead the Treasury and Operations for Aptos Foundation. Aptos Foundation supports the growth and development of the Aptos blockchain. The Aptos blockchain was launched in October of 2022, so we're almost getting to 2 years now. But we're a layer one blockchain, really built to evolve and very high on kind of the credentials of the network. The technology stack is both part of the team we have supporting it is top notch, and we believe the user experience really just to be solid. And so really I've spent my past almost 2 years now supporting the foundation, helping it to grow from infancy to a point where we really want the blockchain to evolve. We want it to really mature and just get as much traction as possible in the marketplace. Prior to joining Aptos Foundation, I spent a very long career at a local bank here in Honolulu, working on a lot of different things. Well, I did treasury management, I did strategy, I did investment products, and it was a great career for me. It was a very good job, but saw this opportunity to jump into a different realm and decided to go for it. So that's where I am now.
I love it. It reminds me of the dot-com era. When I look back at the dot-com, the static website, and the Web2 era where we now have Facebook, social media, and so forth, you worked in traditional finance in that legacy banking system. So you understand all those bottlenecks, all those pain points. Can you just share with me when you first heard about blockchain and then
Mhm.
where you when you finally had your aha moment going, wow, I can actually help make an impact?
Yeah, and it's actually amazing as I've spent almost 2 years now in this space, how many people have come from TradFi or traditional careers into Web3. It's less of an anomaly. It's almost like a normality at this point because a lot of folks see the potential in this technology to help provide support to evolving our ecosystem. It's really a public good is what blockchains provide to us. And so for me, I was pretty deep entrenched in my banking career. Had a lot of good moments working through it. I have a pretty good understanding of just different elements, just having done different things in my career at the bank. And when I read the white paper, for me, it was the Aptos white paper as I was evaluating this opportunity, which talked about the possibilities of what blockchain could do. I aligned that with how things are being done, the efficiencies, the kind of immutability, which kind of offer safety and security. All of these things where you could apply this technology to things that oftentimes are being done manually and what that could do just for efficiency's purpose, not even thinking about how that helps change the economies around things, right? Just the tokenization allows more ownership for various people. The kind of the nature of kind of the blockchain being decentralized, meaning just everyone has access to it. Just the possibilities of what those future use cases could be is what really got me excited about it. And so, I was as I was evaluating just the opportunity to join a blockchain company, which is once again my career is very very buttoned up, very steady. Seeing this possibility, reading this white paper, and that was really my aha moment. Just say, okay, this sounds right. I'm at this point in the career where something different would probably be a good thing, and just like my mind just started to go and dream again, and I thought that was what was the most fascinating.
This idea of changing and shaping the future, taking what we've learned in the past and just trying to make it the best we can for the next generations to take hold of the innovation that we're crafting. I think this idea of being a legacy maker, a change maker in this world, somebody like yourself, where literally most people think in Hawaii, folks are just sitting on the beach, having a Mai Tai, doing nothing. I can't express enough to you how many people that I talk to just wonder how I get work done in Hawaii. I just got to share most of the time. I don't even see the ocean because I'm working. And I just think that there's so much passion in this industry and it's a testament. Here we are in the middle of the Pacific Ocean and we're dreaming. We're
Right.
dreaming big time. And I just find that interesting, that mindset. Can you share with me like how your mindset is a little bit different than what people might often think?
That's an interesting question, and certainly I've gotten the comments before. I work with a pretty global team for my role at Aptos Foundation. I'll talk to folks in Europe, in Asia, in India, just folks all around the world, and they won't say it directly, but sometimes the thought is, "Hey, you're in Hawaii, so what are you doing working so much?" And I tell them I'm up in the morning working hard, talking to folks in the European time zone. During the day, I'm talking to folks in the Pacific or East Coast time zone, and then at night I'll go ahead and talk to teammates in Asia. Hawaii, in that sense, is a really good place just to be able to connect with the world, and so I'm taking advantage of that. But I don't, yeah, similar to you, I often tell people I'm the worst Hawaiian they'll ever meet. I don't surf. I'm not a great fisherman. I don't go outside that much. I do enjoy the sun. I enjoy hikes. I enjoy kind of swimming and all those things, but I don't get enough time to do it. And so I think there's a certain kind of passion for this type of work. I think there's a certain pride that I take in a lot of things that I do. There's a certain level of perfection that I hold myself to and just want to be successful, right? I take a lot of pride in that. I want to make sure the team that I'm part of is very successful. And that's just the mindset I've carried with me throughout life. And so that's sometimes it's not the greatest thing. Sometimes we get caught up in things that aren't as important. Just have to be mindful of what's important and not. But I think for the most part, I think that's what we're seeing, what I believe in, and what I like to hold myself to. And I think for the folks who I work with, I think especially in this space, they do that as well. And so at least there's a lot of like-mindedness in this space where we're all really just trying to do our best, whether or not you're in Hawaii or in different parts of the globe. I think there's this real passion to change the world with what we're doing here. And then it's a long road. It's not going to be quick. It's not going to be easy. I wish it were, to be honest with you, but it's going to take time. And I think we've all acknowledged that. We're all in this ride. We're enjoying the journey and we're all working hard to try to get it done. So I think that's what I really enjoy about this space.
Yeah, it's interesting missing time because I find it a misnomer. More specifically, everybody's so short term or near term sighted. They look at what's in front of them, what's the trend, and how are we going to catch on, right? And it's like a bit of trend chasing, I guess. And I certainly understand it because if it's trendy, that means there's market to place traction, there's opportunity. But in blockchain, it's just a little bit different. The ecology of blockchain ecosystem, wider, everybody. I'm not just talking about one chain or another. I'm talking about all the different layers, all the different technologies, the stack, the blockchain stack. It's like this thing is not going to happen overnight. And we've
Yep.
seen it like Bitcoin now significantly past a decade, proving itself with resilience, right? I think we all have a lot more trust in regards to what we're doing because the hardening that we've seen
Right.
in grandmama on Bitcoin. But anyways, a granddad, whoever you want to, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. It's shape shifting because it gives us a bit of trust in a trustless system. What
Right.
I'm trying to get to is that this time scale thing, we're all trying to hurry up and get and win something. And I'm thinking to myself, where's the long-term play, right?
Right.
What's the long-term play? And since I'm focusing like on utility and I'm looking at the power of blockchain in everyday life for the everyday person, I just find it interesting that we're mixing utility with a very fast track iteration cycle that requires time because we've seen it in the past. It's not like this is not done before. You could look at any type of innovation and it
Mhm.
always take a while on the S curve to catch on.
Right. Right. Absolutely. I think this space is actually really, I think you categorized, I think the space is actually really one where there's a lot of short term interest. And to be honest, that sometimes that can be a bit distracting, right? It's where prices are going, where the opportunities are, where do you get 10x on your investment, 100x, et cetera. And I think it's part of the story here. But where I'm focused is on the longer term, where at least where my head is at, is just what's the longer term utility? Like, how do we leverage these tokens for what they are? These are utility tokens. They're used for gas on ecosystems. They're used for kind of investments in the DeFi space. They're used for gaming tokens to provide support. And I can't even tell you what the use cases in the future will be because I think we're still evolving what those will be as well. And so sometimes with the short term focus, I think sometimes we will lose sight of the longer term goals. And the longer term goals are truthfully just endless. There's so many things you can do with blockchain technology. There's applications that can be built on top of it. It's really this decentralized internet that really allows a lot of people to participate and just think about what the possibilities of that will be if unlocked, right? And so I really want, at least where I'm focused, are long-term goals for blockchain technology. I can't avoid the short-term hype. I think we've got to make sure that we appeal to that as well. But for the most part, yeah, trying to balance those two. I still can't explain exactly what I do to my parents. It's still an industry that's a little bit very much different than what you would see in the traditional world. What I would say is actually my wife is probably in that realm, probably a couple of months. She was thinking, "Hey, should I buy Bitcoin?" And that question just completely caught me out of surprise because she's not a person who'd be thinking about this type of thing. She's in a traditional field. She's a physician. She's not thinking about this type of technology. She knows my world in banking and kind of more conservative in that nature. But she asked about that. And I'm like, okay, maybe this is starting to gain some traction here. Maybe this is something to think about. So it's a place that's evolving. I think there's different utility for kind of each one of the ecosystems, each one of the different tokens. And it's a place to watch. And hopefully that's something that continues to evolve globally as well as in Hawaii as well.
A place to watch or a place to participate, depending on your skill level. I think there's so
Exactly.
much opportunity here. And I don't think enough people respect this. Like I too have experience at the foundation level.
Oh, good.
And when you're working with all these partners and so forth, You have the economics and treasury management. This is a long-term play. There's many things that you have to do in regards to the way you're going to manage the ecosystem. And when I look at an ecosystem, especially since I got that experience like you're experiencing now, it's like the touch points globally. These opportunities are all verticals within different spectrums.
Yeah.
And like here in Hawaii, it's all about the rainbow, showing that we're unity while we love our family, not
Yeah.
Ohana way. But to me, it's a lot like that, these spectrums. And what I love most, because I have that industry experience, is that back in the day when we had that Web 2 era, when everybody's going into blogging, social, Facebook, we're all just starting to tap in and be a little bit more social in a dynamic world. It's like a lot of those folks still are not participating in Web 3. They're still working in the legacy tech. And it reminds me of the medical field. And what I mean more specifically of medical field is that a lot of hospitals right now still depend on old mainframe systems. We're talking like
Right.
AS400, System 36. This is the
Mm.
mainframe dumb terminal. And so what they're doing is they're just constantly doing a duct tape and spray paint on these systems, trying to carry them forward. And I think blockchain is the big opportunity for enterprise to finally leapfrog technology and remove these archaic systems. When I look at it from that perspective, I'm like, is it just
Yeah.
really the market cap today? Or do we have something much bigger than even what we witnessed through the evolution of gaming? Really,
Yeah.
from a utility perspective, and you look at those touch points, I think we just have so much opportunity. I think that we're at a cusp of coming at an intersect of major innovation in this space.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the platform is there, right? It's ready for development. I think some of those use cases and what we can do in the future are all possible on blockchain technology. Just the speed at which transactions can happen, the low latency, just really sets up this infinite uses. We're seeing more and more. We're seeing investments available on chain. We're seeing financial opportunities available on chain. We're seeing a lot more gaming that's being available on chain as well. And if we get to a point in the future where the technology is truly unleashed, you could have gamers who are playing a certain game get to a certain level, accumulate a certain amount of NFTs or tokens, and be able to monetize that for another person who wants to achieve that same level. And it just creates this kind of endless world of possibilities, right? And you can send same technology you can use to send payments around the world more quickly than you can in other with traditional means, and probably a lot more simpler there as well. And as I mentioned, there's even other possibilities. I think the realm of what we're seeing now is just the cusp of what we would expect to see as this technology continues to evolve. I think that's something as I'm thinking about it from the foundation standpoint. The future is, as I mentioned, it's hard work. It's going to take some time for us to get there, but there's just so many possibilities. And I really, that's what gets me excited. I can't wait to see what evolves. I can't wait to see what the next proposal is, what the next thing the teams choose to build, and hopefully they do it with us as well. But really, that's what gets me excited. It's knowing that what we see right now is actually very impressive in terms of how we're seeing kind of the Web 2 use cases evolve into Web 3. Of course, Web 3 needs to do a better job of making sure it's a little bit more seamless. So the folks who don't have a wallet, can't remember the keys, things like that are lot easier to do. Then at the same time, it's just the evolution of what can be done, I think is out there. And once again, just can't wait to see what that looks like. And really, that's what I'm energized by.
I'm going to tell you. So, you know what's super cool is you mentioned your wife talking about Bitcoin, and you clearly have an understanding. So you knew it before, and now she's asking you questions, and that was, I would assume, would be a proud moment for you, right?
It was,
But tell
yeah.
me,
It was a
yeah,
surprise moment. Yeah, it's a surprise moment just to show I think it's a kind of a barometer, right? As we start to talk more about blockchain technology, more about cryptocurrencies, it's just like how much of that really picks up, right? It's still probably more of a discussion that most people don't have versus ones that do have. And so for me, that was a recollection of this is getting a little bit more widespread appeal. We're seeing it to start to be covered in different news media. Unfortunately, it's political to some degree, fortunately or unfortunately.
right.
It's part of the political landscape here as well. But I think it just how do we drive this further? Because I think once again, there's so many possibilities. And so for me, it was a surprise moment. It was a good moment. I'm glad that she still stays engaged with and supportive of me on this journey and of this industry.
A barometer reading is spot on. And the reason why I
Yeah.
say that is when I look at my history, my own history, no stats in front of me, just my experience, right? Web 2, Google, Udacity, Facebook, just hanging out with all these fantastic, even at YC, like the percentage of diversity is slim. It's
Hmm.
mostly male dominant, very stereotypical. You had your typical person getting VC funding. How did they get it? They went through their very privileged network and they got their foot in the door where most people can't. And in
Mm.
Web3, I witnessed a transition, more
Right.
diversity, more uniqueness in the way that we support broader ecosystem to
Mhm.
build with new ways to look at funding. And then you
Yep.
mentioned about like loans and funding, and, lending as a whole. It's shifting when we think of things like, I don't know, third world farmers needing support in regards to scale to help out their local communities. Like Web3 solidly creating a trust in a trustless world in areas where they're having conflicts or they just might not have access to things like microloans. And these
Right.
microloans will save the
Exactly.
farm, save the land, and allow them to proceed forward in a fair and
Exactly.
a community centric way. So to me, I love the fact that everybody that I talk to, it's always coming back down to the one thing, being human centric in what we do.
Right.
So
Right.
I just want to hear from you, like the human centric side. When you think about like 10 years from now, which is crazy, 10 years, like how can any of us think 10 years? But just think about that crazy world. Everybody's so concerned about AI. Everybody's so concerned that they're not going to have a job. Do you
Right.
think really that human centric is just going to evaporate and it's just going to let the machines take control?
Yeah, I think that's a tough question. 10 first of all, 10 years, if I can think about the end of the week, then I've done a good job. So 10 years from now is a pretty tough place to be. It's hard to say the forecast. Certainly with AI, there's a lot of possibilities. I think there's actually a play between AI and blockchain just in terms of authenticity of some of the outputs from that standpoint. So I want to be great to see that evolve and just see those two technologies evolve together. But I think, yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I think that the evolution of just what's possible is the possibilities are endless. I think it is ultimately Web3 to me is almost a kind of a freedom for all. It's like it's the technology that's built for the people, right? It's a democratization of the internet, if you will. If you think about what the world looks like right now at Web2, it's really controlled by a handful of large players, right? It's the Facebooks and the Googles, and not to say they haven't done a great job, and because they have, and they deserve the accolades that they receive, but I think there's a lot of technology, especially in the blockchain side, that enables similar types of outputs in a decentralized way where everyone can participate. And so you don't have this central block making decisions for the whole team. You've got a lot of community members coming together and coming up together with decisions on what they think works best. And I think that's what Web3 enables is that kind of that people led technology, that community led technology. My view on where we are from the foundation standpoint, it's 2 years in, it's still fairly early. It's a lot of hard work that's still ahead. But 10 years from now, the hope of it is that the community that takes over, that we don't need the foundation to be helping to drive or fund a lot of the teams that are out there developing on Aptos. What we really want is the community to take over for them to be enabled to support each other to make the decisions for the community. I think that's a goal. That's a dream. That's what we need for this to truly be technology for the world. And I think that's at least from a kind of how it should look in the future. That's what I'm aiming for.
I love it. You know what I would love to see? More people participating in governance. Like I've facilitated many time on DAOs. I've have the
Um,
experience with communities. And sometimes I just wonder, would it be easier to manage this on a napkin? Because process, the way that we have our tooling, when I think of the end user, no wonder they're not participating. It's confusing. It's hard to understand how you participate. You don't understand the risk. You got your tokens, you're locking them up to get your right. Like we have all these things that kind of shift in the way that we're managing governance on chain.
right,
And this is
right.
fascinating. It's gonna constantly shape. And I think this is a great opportunity, especially when we look out at 10 years. But right now, it's really hard to work with. And for the everyday person, the everydayer, they just don't
Yep,
see value in it because it just has so much friction.
right.
What do you think we can do now to help set the pace to change that moving forward?
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree with you. Governance is probably one of the hardest things for folks to get engaged with. I think certainly there are the handful that really apply to folks, and I think sometimes you have these teams that are really passionate about them, and if they're all on one side, you've got it, and if they're not, and they're both sides, then you really can't. It's really hard to get things done. I think also I've seen a fair share of proposals that are very technology centric, and some of these are things that are important for the at least for the blockchain technology for them to continue to run and important in terms of making improvements to the tech, but the end user, how engaged will they be with that? And so I think that's really the difficulty here is just driving more active engagement around these things. We can see just how hard it's going to be, or how hard it traditionally has been for Hawaii voters to go to the polls for the traditional voting as well. And so I think there's all things to be mindful of. And I think we want to take it seriously, if we want folks to really engage with it, I think we've really got to be serious about putting of focus and effort and maybe marketing around it. Maybe it's something that we need to just get more incentives around for people to get engaged, right? More campaigns just to get people active. Because I think once they do, they'll see the value of it. But if you're looking at it at the forefront, it's people probably don't understand the decisions, or it's hard to understand sometimes the impact of voting on decisions that are being made, which really impact the overall technology, the overall community. And so I think it's something that over time, as I mentioned, we want communities to be more engaged, and I think governance is going to be one of those. And I think for us to ever move forward on it, if folks can talk about different protocols and there's different ways to do it. But I think yeah, it's going to take a very concerted effort. It's going to be a real simple way that's appealing for users to do it, and it's going to be tough. I think that to me the kind of a challenge that I've got on my list is just let's think about this. I'm not, yeah, let's think about how to do this.
It's a challenge. It's been my biggest challenge, just trying to help coach people, trying to remove that friction and get them to participate. It first takes a bit of a dream, right? So that
Yep.
way they
Yeah.
can latch on and then they can start understanding the process. So with great people, you can make fantastic processes that leads to good product. But
Yeah.
it's so early on. It reminds me of the green screen. Like I was back there with my 9600 baud rate modem dialing into the bulletin board system. It took a bit of imagination. It wasn't the funnest technology. And when I
Right.
think about that, what barriers to entry? Who wants to just jump in and start crafting what we have today as Web 2? During when your
Right.
bulletin board green screen and the time it takes to connect and download or get anything that of worth of value is it has so much friction.
Right.
And when you take those moments of growth cycle throughout computer science and you look at now, why did
Right.
people expect it to be any different? That's what baffles me. It's like it takes a long time, and somehow you think we're just going to just accelerate that. We're the hardest part in the whole equation. It's fast to iterate on machines or iterate on technology, get smaller, more efficient, so forth. But for
Right.
people, we're humans. We want to
Yeah.
work with tech, and we just want it to work in the background. We don't need to get
Yeah.
re-educated and go back to school.
Right, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. I think that's actually a really good way to play it, and the way you've outlined it, it's been much harder in the past, right? The availability of the internet and the time it took, and now we're in this place where your phone is just as good as your computer in terms of getting things done. And I think about this space, and I've actually got a pretty interesting journey here, right? I'm starting from a traditional finance background. I'm jumping straight into Web3, and I remember the first moments as I sat down and started to try to work through and uncover it. And it's just like, okay, what do I do? Like, where do I start? Just even having to map that out and think through it. I remember the first week or two that I was working for Aptos, I remember asking folks, like, what do I like? What is exactly that I need to do? Where do I start? What do I read? How do I just get in? I want to know everything. And so, what do I do? And just trying to dive into the journey. Okay, you've got to get a wallet, work on getting a ledger to help protect yourself, help to manage the tokens, especially in Hawaii. It's been a little bit more difficult to get access to some of these things. And so that was another block in trying to uncover how to do that. But it just takes dedication and time and focus. And I think I've got the wallet not now a year and a half, almost 2 years in. I feel like a pro at it. I've got my wallets. I've got good protocols around how I do things naturally. In this space, you have to do that. But also, I'm engaging in different ecosystem teams with different ecosystem teams. I'm participating in some of the finance options with liquid staking, with borrow lend protocols, with swaps and things like that. Because there's a lot of interesting use cases around it, right? There's a lot of economic opportunities in those spaces, leveraging tokens. I think it's just really trying it out. It's just looking at, okay, this looks interesting. Let me dive into it. And I think it is a challenge for the industry to get to a point where you don't need to set up an explicit wallet. You don't need this personal key that you write down on a piece of paper. You don't have difficulty onboarding, getting the tokens that you need. I think that's a dream for us to just adopt this broader appeal. We're seeing a lot of places where that you're getting the social logins, right? You're able to use your Google login to get to your wallet. You're getting pass keys where you can use the camera on your screen, login as well. So some of the things that you think are more native to Web 2, you'll be able to do in Web 3 technologies as well, and easing some of those burdens. There's still some that are out there, but I think what's really incumbent on the teams that are out there to just remove those roadblocks and just get more folks there. So it does become another moment that folks are looking back and saying, "Wait, remember when that was so hard back in those days? We get to find those keys and I lost my keys and what am I going to do?" I hope we get to a point where we're not even talking about those things anymore. And I think that's
Right?
possible. I think it's really possible.
Oh, it's absolutely possible. We're witnessing it now. All you have to do is just take the past and look at what's happening now. I just recently seen on the news that we're implementing in Oahu the digital ID on your cell phone, right?
I
And so
saw that
now
too.
it's a test case. This is a prototype. Let's be real. Like we're just testing this right now to make sure everything's good. You still need your physical ID. But this is a testament of where we're at right now when you think about blockchain, the direction that Web3 as ethos is going. We're already working on the digital ID. And when you think of things like what's happening right now with the government in the state of Hawaii, where we deregulated blockchain and now we're implementing the digital ID at the airport, like right there, why can't the government create ultimate private key for its citizens? There are ways to make that work. Just saying. So
Yeah.
there are in the future. To me, it's no brainer. This digital ID
Yeah.
is solved. We're in the trenches working through the ebbs and flows of innovation. And the
Yes,
coolest part that I'm
definitely.
witnessing, I'm seeing, and I know you are seeing this too, and this is a testament with us on the call right now, is
Right.
that we're finally seeing the corruption and we have all thousands and thousands in change. But where's the real innovation happening? Where's the real builders in this space? What are we really doing to help protect tomorrow? And it starts
Right.
with real authenticity, us working in our career. And my career is dedicated to this. I want to help transition Web 2 to Web 3. And I can clearly see
That's
you're excited about it.
exciting,
Come
right?
on.
Exciting.
All right. Have a good
All
one.
right. Thanks.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.